Welcome once again to Joy in the Journey. I'm Pastor Jim Higdon, and today I want to talk with you for a moment about patience. I looked up the definition of patience, and I'm not sure that I really like what I read. It said that patience is the capacity to accept or to tolerate delay, to tolerate trouble, to tolerate suffering without getting angry or upset. Or to put it simply, waiting without complaint. Are you a patient person? I have to admit that there are aspects of my life that I have the patience of Job. I've always been very good about studying or writing. I learned in seminary that for every page that I write, it takes me about an hour. And if there's research involved, it can take an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours. I remember in seminary, I had a professor that assigned a 10-page paper every single week. And when the class complained to him about it, he said that, when you all graduate, you're going to be delivering a sermon every single week. And a sermon and a 10-page paper are very similar, so you might as well get used to it now. Well, I will tell you that I found that he was right. So, in that way, I am incredibly patient. But Karen will tell you that if I have to wait in line, oh, that's a different story altogether. Or if I have to sit in traffic, oh, that's also a different story. I will drive 20 miles out of my way not to sit in traffic. And I will avoid standing in line at Walmart at all costs. I've always enjoyed the movie Evan Almighty. It's a story about a man who finds himself building an ark in a subdivision because God told him to do it. And my favorite scene is his distraught wife. She's sitting in a diner talking to God, although she doesn't realize that it is God that she is talking to. And God speaking to her says, "Excuse me, are you all right?" And she replies, "Yeah." God doesn't look very convinced. "No, it's a long story." "Well, I like stories. I'm considered a bit of a storyteller myself." "Well," she replied, "my husband, have you heard of New York's Noah?" Chuckling, God says, "The guy who's building the ark?" "Yeah, that's him." "I love that story, Noah and the ark. You know, a lot of people miss the point of that story completely. They think it's all about God's wrath and God's anger. They love it when God gets angry." "Well, then what's the story about then, the ark?" "Well, I think it's a love story about believing in each other. You know, the animals showed up in pairs. They stood by each side by side, just like Noah and his family. Everybody entered the ark side by side. But my husband says that God told him to do it. What do you do with that?" God said, "It sounds like an opportunity to me. Let me ask you something. If someone prays for patience, do you think God gives them patience? Or does God give them the opportunity to be patient? If they pray for courage, does God give them courage or does he give them opportunities to be courageous? If someone prayed for their family to be closer, you think God zaps them with warm, fuzzy feelings or does he give them opportunities to love each other? Which is exactly what she had prayed for in the beginning of the movie. You know, I've thought many times about that line. If someone prays for patience, do you think God gives them patience or does he give them the opportunity to be patient? The book of James, chapter 5, verses 7 and 8 says, "Be patient, therefore, brothers and sisters, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it. Until it receives the early and the late rains, you also be patient. Establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand." I remember when our kids were very young and they were a part of a Sunday school production called The Music Machine. There was one scene where all of the kids were dressed like bugs and they were driving around on stage in cars made out of cardboard boxes. They were bumping into each other and honking their horns. And the song that they sang went something like this: have patience, don't be in such a hurry. When you get impatient, you only start to worry. Remember that God is patient too. So think of all the times when others have to wait on you. You know, my friends, be patient. Be patient with your family. Be patient with each other. Be patient, most importantly, with yourself. And remember that you really are doing a great job in these difficult times. And especially remember that our God is patient too. So until next time, we'll see you down the road.